Hello again, students. It's Mr. Luis, and welcome to the next part of our research method series. Today, we're going to focus on methodological issues in psychology. So far, we've talked about how ethical considerations are key in any study, but equally important are the scientific issues that come up when researchers design their experiments. We'll break down key concepts like reliability, validity, and generalizability, and explore why these are crucial in evaluating whether research is truly good science. Let's get started. In psychology, evaluating research isn't just about whether the study is ethical. It's also about looking at how valid and reliable the research is. The more reliable and valid a study is, the more we can trust its findings. And generalizability is key. This tells us how much we can apply the findings to larger populations or real-world situations. Reliability: can the study be replicated? Reliability in research refers to the consistency of the results. A reliable study will give you similar results if you repeat it. If an experiment is conducted again under the same conditions, it should produce the same findings. One way to test for reliability is the test-retest method. Here, researchers repeat the same test with the same participants at 2 different times. If the results are similar, the test is considered reliable. However, sometimes the issue isn't just with the tool or measurement used, it's about how the data is interpreted. For instance, in a subjective study where responses could be interpreted in different ways, the reliability could decrease. In these cases, researchers often look for inter-rater reliability. This means multiple researchers should observe the same event and interpret the data in similar ways. If they do, it shows the study has good reliability. Another key aspect is standardization. This means the procedure should be the same every time with no changes in how the study is conducted. This minimizes errors that could affect the results. Replicability: can it be repeated? Closely related to reliability is replicability, the ability for other researchers to repeat the study and get the same results. If a study can't be replicated, it's hard to trust the findings. For example, if one psychologist publishes a study and another researcher can't replicate the results by following the same procedure, it raises questions about the credibility of the original study. Clear and detailed reporting of how the research was conducted is essential for this. Validity: is the study measuring what it claims? Validity is all about whether the study measures what it's supposed to measure. For example, in an experiment on stress, are we actually measuring stress, or are we just measuring something like discomfort or anxiety? Face validity checks whether the test seems to measure what it's supposed to, but it's not always enough. Construct validity is stronger. It shows whether the measure actually matches the underlying concept. Ecological validity also plays a part here. If an experiment is conducted in a lab but the task is highly artificial, we might question whether the findings can be applied to real life. A field experiment done in real-world settings might have higher ecological validity because the behavior studied happens naturally. Generalizability: can we apply the results beyond the study? Once we have reliability and validity, we need to think about generalizability. This refers to whether the findings of a study can be applied to other people, places, or situations outside the study. If a study has internal validity but was conducted with a very specific group of participants, like a small group of university students, the findings might not be generalizable to a larger population. For example, findings from an experiment on helping behavior in a specific town may not apply to a completely different culture. Ecological validity also affects generalizability. When evaluating a research study, it's essential to consider several critical factors. First, we look at reliability. This refers to whether the results remain consistent across different times, situations, and researchers. Next, we move on to validity. Here we want to ask whether the study measures what it's supposed to measure. Is the task realistic, and does it reflect real-world situations? Another key issue to evaluate is generalizability. How broadly can we apply the findings to other groups, settings, or time periods? In addition to evaluating these essential factors, it's also important to suggest ways the study's methodology could be improved. For instance, researchers might change the method. If the study was a laboratory experiment, they could consider switching to a field experiment to make the findings more ecologically valid. Another improvement could involve using a better sampling technique. For example, if the study used convenience sampling, researchers might switch to random sampling to ensure the sample is more representative of the population, reducing any sampling bias. Researchers might also need to refine the tools used to collect data. If the study used questionnaires or interviews, enhancing inter-rater reliability would improve the study's reliability. This can be done by training researchers and agreeing on specific operational definitions. Here's an example. Dr. Singh is studying obedience, and he's conducting a study with drivers. He's interested in whether they stop at the line when they see a traffic warden in different clothing. He uses inter-rater reliability to ensure that two researchers agree on what counts as obedient or disobedient behavior. He also asks his participants why they stopped and asks two colleagues to interpret these reasons to make sure the results are reliable. By focusing on factors like reliability, replicability, and validity, Dr. Singh's study can be considered good science because it's transparent, replicable, and conducted with a clear focus on objective measurement. And that wraps up our discussion on evaluating research and methodological issues. Remember, whether we're looking at reliability, validity, or generalizability, these concepts help us understand how robust a study really is. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope this helped clarify how to evaluate research studies for your exams. As always, I'm Mr. Luis, and I'll see you in the next lesson.